There are some people you meet and you instantly know that they're leading a bigger life. And I'm not talking about money or cars or anything. I'm talking about living a life that isn't just about them. Noah Baskett is one of those people. Noah is an independent Power BI consultant and also helps struggling communities in his day job. In this episode, you will find out how it is possible to combine your dreams and passion with what you do. How to make a great living while living a great life. At the end of this video, Noah also shares the pros and cons of being an independent Power BI consultant. It's stories like Noah that get me excited, stories from real people just like you and me, using Power BI to make a real impact. These are the Power BI pros. If this video inspires you in any way, please leave a comment and let Noah know. And make sure to subscribe and click the bell so you are notified whenever I go live to help you in your Power BI journey. Let's hear it from Noah. And you can also connect with him using the link in the description.
Hey Noah, so good to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Avi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So hey, I checked out your site, wisbi.co, and the tagline is certainly very intriguing, but not a surprise to me. So it said data to drive social impact. Now, of course, every time you've spoken and everything I know about you, this thread is kind of interwoven throughout your life about community, about helping others. Tell me a bit about the kind of work that you do, and also why is it so important to you?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I've worked in the nonprofit sector for most of my professional life. Got involved early in my life working with young people
Hmm.
from pretty tough neighborhoods and walking alongside them, doing mentoring work, helping them be successful in education, and then ended up doing a lot of work with young people who actually went to college
Hmm.
and helping them try to be successful and actually attaining that degree and bringing it back home. So I've really enjoyed this work of basically serving, working with underrepresented, underserved groups
Hmm.
and communities and neighbors, and
Yeah.
really do believe that that lots of different kinds of people can make an impact kind of on this in this social world that we live in, particularly for people that need extra support or have been
Hmm.
oftentimes dealt not the best deck of hands in their life. So that's kind of been my work, is trying to leverage social impact in a number of different ways in
Yeah.
several different communities. And so right now I work full time at a rescue mission here in Tacoma, Washington.
Hmm.
And so we're working with men, women, and children that are experiencing homelessness. So have fallen
Hmm.
on pretty tough times for a number of circumstances. And our
Yeah.
goal is to walk alongside them out of homelessness into a thriving existence.
Yeah.
So yeah, Power BI has been one way to continue to do that work.
That's amazing. I definitely want to ask you more about that. But for this one, I was wondering, do you, when you look back, was there a specific experience, a specific trigger? What pulled you into this to begin with? And I don't know
Yeah.
when it started for you. Was it after you started working or back in school? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so I wasn't a computer science guy or anything like that in school. I studied history in college,
Hmm.
but I was running a scholarship program actually here in Tacoma, um, and we were one of the things we were doing is just trying to track how we were doing in recruiting kids to the scholarship program, doing a better job of keeping track of our metrics related to how students
Yeah.
were being retained in school and how they were succeeding. And I had a colleague in the work who did have a computer science background, and he introduced me to this fun little tool called Power BI back in
Awesome.
2016.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I kind of got into it. I read your book pretty early on in that, and just kind of got really interested in the world of data and using data to,
Hmm.
analyze impact, drive impact, and just have a better sense of what actual difference you're making on the ground. So it was all through that scholarship program and just trying to
Yeah.
do our work better that I got really drawn into this Power BI universe.
That's beautiful. Hey, yeah, you can't manage, or I like to say you can't manage what you can't measure, but what I like to say is you can't grow what you can't measure, because
Yeah.
I want to grow stuff, right? What I'm focusing on. I'm really curious about your approach with Power BI, and
Mm.
do you use it as like the Trojan horse, or is it the battering ram, right? So do you like not mention it and just talk about, hey, we'll focus on business improvement and leadership in this, and oh, by the way, we're going to leverage an amazing tool, Power BI, so you kind of slip it in?
Yeah.
Or do you kind of lead with that? So guys, Power BI is amazing and it's going to turn your world upside down. I don't know, which approach do you usually find yourself taking?
Yeah, for a Power BI evangelist, it's always easy to kind of put the tool first. I think, especially because I love it. I think
Yeah.
I've found so much use with Power BI. It's so flexible. I keep learning new things every day. But my experience, Avi, has been, you lead with the issues that people are facing. You lead with
Mm-hmm.
the pain points. What are the challenges in front of you? What do you actually want to be able to do with your data? And then it is the, oh, and by the way, here's some ways that we can use this incredibly flexible, powerful tool to try to get at that. And I like that a lot. I like that approach a lot more. We talk a lot about this in the kind of the social impact world around, if all you have is a hammer, the whole world is full of a bunch of nails, right? And so you don't want to, I think that's the temptation again. You start with the issues at play, start with the outcome in mind. And then, by the way, there's a tool that just is really good at a lot of different things.
Love that. I mean, I also found it the hard way. So I was within Microsoft, which definitely had the culture of kind of leading with technology, and I learned the hard way working with different clients that no, I mean it's just a tool. It's a means to an end, and you got to
Yeah.
keep your eyes on that. So that's great.
I mean, I think you're right. And I feel like there was one client I was working with where, he wanted to work with Power BI. And so, but part of the thing you learn and just asking some questions is,
Yeah.
he just had some fancy graphs that he wanted to do. And he didn't recognize sort of some of the capabilities and some of the things that would be really helpful to him as a business manager that he didn't even think about. So it's helping to also, it's in even when you're talking about the technology, helping to uncover different ways that it can solve problems you hadn't even thought about.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm going to ask you more about that, because sometimes I've experienced it, and I'm sure you have too, where you go in with even like a Power BI project, but you realize that their problems are bigger than that. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
process something else. So I want to talk to you about that. But before that, what I want to ask you is, now you did mention that your focus has been this nonprofit. That's what you have worked with. But now, of course, with your consulting business, you're so I remember when you said these words to me, and I found them so beautiful. And you talked about bridging the divide. And
Mm,
why do we see these things as two separate worlds, like nonprofit, for profit? And I think a little bit of that is changing. There are
totally.
brands have been around for a while, like Tom's Shoes, which are, hey, we're gonna make money, but we also want to help the world. So it's kind of getting closer. So one word I've heard is cause driven, and I like that. I know in
Mm-hmm.
my organization, I'm trying to have an impact too. Tell me a bit about that. And do you think Power BI can somehow make that, get that closer to reality? Can help with that cause?
Yeah, we have talked a lot about that divide that is so artificial, right?
Hmm.
Especially when we are talking ultimately about a tax structure. At the end of the day, that's all that divides a nonprofit and a for-profit.
Very interesting.
I love the cause-driven language, Avi. The language that I'm just using in
Hmm.
trying to describe my scope is social impact, and
Yeah,
that businesses are very capable of making a social impact.
yeah, yeah.
One of the ski company that I'm working with, they really have a high value of ecological sustainability and design and everything that they're
Hmm.
doing. So I think
That's
I'm
beautiful.
just discovering that's a little bit of my niche. And I do think you're
Yeah.
right. And that a lot of those boundaries are being erased, and recognizing that, especially if you're ultimately about impact,
Hmm.
identifying what kind of impact you want to have in this world that's positive. Well, then,
Yeah,
the organizational structure is really
yeah,
secondary, right?
yeah.
Uh, You know,
Love
so
that.
sometimes the impact you want to have, it's going to work best with a for-profit, sometimes a nonprofit. I'm interested in working with all of them. I just strengthen what
Yeah.
people, the kind of impact I want to make.
That's gosh, that's really beautiful. Perfect. That was great. So I want to bring it back to the topic that we touched upon, but I want you to dive a little bit deeper with me, which is we talked about how sometimes we go in with Power BI, and of course you worked with organizations at a higher level, like strategy, leadership, and things like that.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, most likely with the help of Power BI, what kind of so sometimes I call Power BI the flashlight because a lot of companies they don't really know what's going on in the organization. And once you turn on the flashlight, you're like, oh, really that's what's going on. So it uncovers a lot of stuff. And again, some of it is data focused, something you can fix in the data. Sometimes it's way beyond that. I'm just really curious what kind of issues you found at that higher level, maybe with leadership or strategy, which these companies are missing. And I remember one of my fellow entrepreneurs described this to me, and he said, Avi, trying to understand how you're doing, how your company is doing, is trying to read the label on the wine bottle while being inside the wine bottle, right? So that's where somebody like you, kind of an expert consultant, you've worked with a lot of companies, been there, done that, can come in and tell you that, yeah, did you realize you're doing this? So I'm just curious, what kind of usual stuff do you see where people often go wrong, companies often go wrong?
You know, this is a really interesting one. I mean, obviously, something like baseline, you know, just looking at revenue numbers year to year and not looking at anything else can just cover up a whole lot of problems. So I'm thinking about one company in particular. We were looking at their data, and this is a company coming off of a bit of a slump and sort of heading back to annual revenue. Look at the data, and you look at your sort of customer count, unique customer count, you know, graphed against that data, and you can see that the customer count was going way down, even when you know, annual revenue was going up. And so basically, the annual revenue was masking the fact that this business was losing a lot of customers, and that, by the way, it lagged a couple of years, but the revenue was coming down too, because they had a much smaller group. So that's just a good example, even of looking historically to.
That's terrific. Yeah. So I certainly have experienced that too, where Power BI is pretty amazing, where it can uncover and give you that next level of detail. And I agree with you that oftentimes organizations are just missing that next level of detail and actionability. And Power BI certainly that's where it shines. It can show you that next level of detail, show you where you need to take action.
Yeah.
So for the last question, I wanted to kind of bring it home and bring it to you. And what I want to ask you is that I have often kind of debated this question. So I was a full-time employee for a long time. Last company I was at was Microsoft, and then I left that and you know, run my own company, independent consulting, training. Now, sometimes I feel like it's very different. And certainly it is different because what it enables me to do, it's totally different. But at the same time, it's not like the magic one. It's not like all consultants are happy, right? And yeah, so if somebody's looking for I don't know, happiness, money, this, that, you can find that being an employee versus being a consultant. But what I want to ask you is, so I really think that it comes down to what you make it mean for you and how you build your life. So I want to ask you about that what does consulting feel to you? What does it mean to you? What kind of life does it let you create? Why are you stepping into this?
It's a good question. I'm still in the discovery phase of that question. I think, Avi, just because it's still so new for me.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the piece that drew me originally, that I continue to really be drawn to with consulting, is just I think, you know, the description of not being able to see the outside of the label is a great one. I love working with the diversity of organizations to you know, to really step into their shoes for a little bit, and really, personally, just be able to be exposed to a lot of different kind of businesses, not have to necessarily pick. I really enjoy that. I think, you know, I think the things I'm really discovering is there's certainly a lot of flexibility in consulting, but it's also, you know, it's on you to manage your schedule and to hold yourself accountable. And that works pretty well for me. You know, I'm a hard worker, and I think I'm intrinsically motivated.
Yeah.
So I'm finding that suits me really well. But again, I'm still discovering what my rhythms are.
Yeah.
You know, what works best for me. How do I not overburden myself,
Hmm.
or you know, figure out how to leave the work at home, even when I'm working from home a lot of the time. So
That's
still
true.
figuring that out.
Love that. Hey, thanks for being so candid about that and the
Yeah.
rest of the interview. And yeah, really quickly, one of the lines that I use is what I say is that so I worked close to 2 decades in one big company or the other, and when I left it and discovered this life, now I look back and it feels like I was always in the backseat of the car being driven around, and now I have the steering wheel in my hands for better or worse, right? I mean, you can,
Yeah.
there's some white knuckle moments for sure, but, and again, I kind of prefer this. So Noah, I just want to thank you for your time. This was really incredible. I thank you for sharing all your insight about working in your organization and making impact around you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Avi. Good to be with you.
The best way to help yourself is to help others. That's what makes Noah a pro. If you would like to become a Power BI pro and impact other lives, then join us in the Learn Power BI family. There's information in the description. Power on, my friend.